Mumonkan, case number 15, Tozan's 60 blows. Tozan came to study with Umon. Umon asked, "Where are you coming from?" "From Sato," Tozan replied. "Where were you during the summer?" "Well, I was at the monastery of Hozu, south of the lake." "When did you leave there?" Umon asked. "On August 25. "I spare you 60 blows," Umon said. The next day, Tozan came back to Umon and said, "Yesterday you spared me 60 blows. I beg to ask you, where was I at fault?" "Oh, you rice-bag!" shouted Umon. "What makes you wander about? Now west of the river, then south of the lake." Tozan thereupon came to a mighty enlightenment experience. So, this story, according to what we know, Tozan came in fact all the way from the north of China and had traveled all the way to the south of China, which is about 5,000 kilometers. He had stopped and practiced Zen in many places and with several teachers. Yet he had heard about Umon, this great Zen master, and wanted to study with him. And that's why he went all the way down south. So finally he made it after this long journey, and this story we just read is actually the first time Tozan met face to face with Umon. One has to understand that such a meeting where a disciple meets a master for the first time is very important. It's a very special occasion because one, as a disciple, is supposed to show some of his understanding, his or her understanding. One is also supposed to test the master a little bit, to see, is this famous Umon that I heard speaking about so much, is he really someone that could guide me in my further training? And by the way, this does not only apply for Zen stories from the 11th century in China. This can apply very well in other situations in daily life. Imagine, for example, that you are passionate about a music instrument, maybe the guitar. You have started the guitar when you were about 10 or 11 years old. You have studied in several music schools already, and you have studied under several teachers. And suddenly you get a scholarship to study with one of the grand masters of guitar. You're very happy. You're going there and you meet for the very first time with this teacher, like in a kind of interview. Would it be appropriate for you then to just say things like, "Yes, I'm coming from there and there. Yes, I have studied there and there. Yes, I left on 25th August. No. You want to show your guitar teacher something about your knowledge, something about how passionate you are about music. And this is exactly the same in this Zen story. If you don't do that, you might very well lose that scholarship. And if you lose that scholarship, that's just as bad as receiving 60 blows from Umon, right? So those blows should be seen a little bit more symbolically as something that can happen to you anytime. Anyway, after Tozan left Umon during their first encounter, he must obviously have had a very bad night, tossing around from one side to the other. No sleep. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Why did he suddenly threaten me with 60 blows? And the next day he would come back, and that's a good thing. He would come back to Umon and say, hey, wait a minute. Why did you reject me? What did I do wrong? I just answered some simple answers to your simple questions. Why? And then he got the second hit by Umon when he shouted, oh, you rise back, which is an insult. It's another wake-up call. For heaven's sake, show me something. Why did you come all the way here? Rather than telling me about south of the lake or west of the river. And because of this, Tozan suddenly got a mighty enlightenment experience. Why? This koan somehow is all about searching. When we are still searching for a master or for enlightenment or for a new practice, it shows restlessness. It shows that we haven't found our basis yet. It shows that we still have to move around from here to there to find something. And that is corresponding also to our search for happiness. Whether we search for enlightenment or we search for happiness, it's very much the same. Outside things can bring happiness, but that's only very short-lived, only temporary. Because true happiness, true enlightenment, it comes from within. Objects and events can only trigger it, but it triggers what? It triggers a joy that comes right from here. So you can search for many things like that. You can search for wealth, a nice house, new furniture, a new car. And yes, all these things can trigger happiness in you for a very short time. But that happiness comes from here. Or you may wish to have a nice vacation, maybe in the Adriatic Sea or at the Costa del Sol. Yes, but that happiness that you obtain when you finally get on the beach and you lie in the sun and you feel this happiness, but the happiness doesn't come from the Adriatic Sea. The happiness comes right from here. Many people are also attracted to very dangerous experiences, and they think they will find happiness that way. For example, bungee jumping. I just read you can have a bungee jumping for only 69 euros. Isn't that great? Or you like to do car racing, which is very dangerous. And yes, those experiences, they will trigger your adrenaline to come up. And so you would have this kind of release of tension, which then triggers happiness. But again, is it the bungee jumping? Is it the car racing that triggers the happiness? Or is the joy coming from you right where you are within? Other examples. A painting in a museum. Yes, you suddenly are overwhelmed by a painting, and this aha moment, it will trigger happiness. But the happiness does not come from there, it comes from here. Or you listen to a wonderful music concert and the harmony just melts you away. But that joy again comes from here, not from the music out there. Other people look for happiness in friendship or a relationship. And here again the same thing applies. Yes, these are fun things to have, but the happy feelings that these bring about, those moments, those happiness feelings, they come again from yourself. And then many other people, they would look for happiness in an altered mind experience, like they would drink alcohol or they would do drugs. And yes, those states can provide you with some temporary relief that triggers happiness, but the same thing applies. The happiness comes from you, not from those experiences. And last but not least, even doing long meditation sessions and reaching samadhi experiences where you are full of joy, that is again an example where happiness comes from within and not from whatever it is you do. Happiness is so near, and many people think, oh, I need to go to India to meet this and this guru, or I have to make a very long retreat, not 1 week, I need a 1 month retreat, because then I will get happy. Or even some say, I need to live in a cave in the Himalayas, and after 6 months maybe I'll get happy. I don't say not to do all of these things. If you feel doing these things, please do. I'm only saying that the happiness is not coming from those things, that the happiness is coming from within. So there is no need to go anywhere. There is no need to walk 5,000 kilometers from the north of China to the south of China. There is no need to visit Sato like Tozan did and go to the monastery of Hodzu, south of the lake, or to go to Umon even, because it is right where you are. As the famous expression goes, you cannot become what you already are. In other words, you cannot become something which you already are. So that's true because you're already it. And it's that kind of realization that Tozan had when Umon scolded him and say, what makes you wander about, now west of the river, now south of the lake? Let me illustrate this now with a little poem. Poem by Wim Burgunk, Man Looking for the Light. There was a man looking for the light, looking everywhere, but unable to find it, until he thought, this man, very clever, if I can first find my shadow. So he looked, and he found his shadow. So he started following his shadow, further and further, over hills and valleys, until the end of his life, his shadow. But Alas, he never found the light because he forgot to turn around. So, the man in our poem, he looked for the light by finally turning around like this. But the deeper meaning of this poem should be seen like we have to turn around our gaze towards ourselves, towards that where happiness or the light emanates from. So after this video, I encourage you to take a few moments and observe how usually your mind is always looking for things far away. And then do the same as the man in the poem. Turn your gaze around and find happiness or the light right within yourself. Thank you.